Hey everybody. So I am coming to you today with another whole life leadership message. I'm actually sharing this video right now on a different platform today on Instagram, IGTV, and we'll be sharing it in all of our channels. So the message I wanted to share with you today is around inclusion. And whether or not you are a full-time parent or you're in the workplace working from home, in your community, chances are the term diversity and inclusion, or diversity, equity, and inclusion are terms that you hear all the time, and you probably feel, wow, I want to learn more about diversity and inclusion. I want to learn more about equity. I want to understand how I can become more inclusive and do my part and do my work. But at the same time, life is busy, right? Life is everywhere I look, whether it's talking to friends, to colleagues, to clients in the workplace, whether or not it's looking at social media. Everybody seems to be still in this reactionary mode and survival mode of this new normal that we're living in. We thought 2021 would be better, but it just seems like it's 2020 sort of on steroids. So you must be thinking to yourself, great, like diversity and inclusion. Yeah, I want to do more, but how on earth am I going to find the time to do more and just do work around that? Because I'm just in survival mode, or I'm just in, getting through my work, getting through parenting, getting through putting meals on the table, and maybe getting a yoga class in, or some time for yourself, or some wellness time for you. So how on earth are you going to find the time to do that inclusion work? So my message for you today, the solution to that, is actually that the family being at home right now, where most of us are home a lot and we're with our family members a lot. I know many people are in scenarios where your spouse is next door, or your partner is next door, or maybe your roommate, your kids. Again, I always speak more from a heterosexual married woman with two young kids. And so that's always the context in which I speak from. But the message is that it's the day-to-day family moments where we are at home with our family members, or the close relationships around us. Those are the moments that we can actually work on becoming. It's the training ground for becoming a more inclusive leader. So again, the whole life leadership message is that the family is the training ground to becoming a more inclusive leader. And that's really where you can start, right? Diversity, inclusion, it really starts with you and your behavior. And I always remind people of that. Just start getting conscious of how you respond to people, how you show up, your behavior. How do you become more conscious of, how you react to people around you, how you, things that come out of your mouth, right? We all have biases. We all come from our reality of what we believe reality is. And so, and really inclusion is showing up in a way that offers space and creates space for other people to feel good about themselves, right? It's to feel like they're being heard, seen, understood, and that creates a sense of belonging. And so, and again, the more that we can all create and show up in a space that allows others to do that, the more we can all step into giving and serving our best selves, right? So that's how workplaces and society can really extract the best out of families, is when people are truly, encouraged and celebrated and affirmed to really be who they are, as opposed to being cut off or disconnected or not affirmed, right? So how can family be the training ground for cultivating your inclusionary behavior and leadership? So I'm going to talk today and focus mainly on marriage. And this also applies to parenting, can build you as an inclusive leader, whether it's your relationship with your sibling or your friends, or, it really applies to all close relationships, because oftentimes the closest relationships can be the hardest, most charged relationship, a relationship with your mother. But today I'm going to focus on marriage, because I think, in the whole life leadership method, I always say your mental emotional health is your number one leadership department, but your marriage, your life partner, is actually the second most important department. Again, for those that are in that relational context. But John and I, my husband and I, got into an argument the other day, and it just inspired me to do this Instagram live, and I had all these people respond and pour in, saying, Claudia, thank you so much. You're live on, your argument with John, like your marriage fight, like that helped me so much. And so I wanted to really lean in, because I think marital conflict and marriage is a topic that so many people don't talk about. And again, it's how we show up, with our colleagues is one thing, but do you also walk that talk at home behind closed doors with your partner? And so the fight that John and I got into, really, we're on this road trip right now, and we're about headed back home later today. But we're on this road trip, and it's just been like an intense trip. And he's done a lot of the work in terms of planning. And he was coming, I was with the kids one afternoon, and they were in the swimming pool. Like, my son's just learning how to swim, and it was just highly stressful because I was like watching him. And it was windy outside, and I was just like trying to pack us up to leave the hotel. And I was just coming from this very just chaotic, stressful, highly charged few hours with my toddlers, trying to pack up, wanted them to get some swim time in so that they're happy. And so that was the pathway that I was coming from, right? When John and I met up, and he came to the hotel to get us. And he was coming from, just talking to some, we're exploring moving to Florida right now. And he was really excited and coming to meet me because he had just seen some homes. And so we were just coming from two different pathways. And I just was not in the happy, grateful mood that really he wanted me to be in. I was like, let's back up. Let's get the kids in the car. Your turn to take care of the kids. And, whereas he really, he has done all of this work for the last, like month or two, researching, this, to plan this 14-day trip and all these different things that we wanted to do. And he's worked really hard, and he's been amazing, putting in all the work, but he really just wanted me to be excited and, in a way, grateful for and affirmed for all of the work that he had done, right? So he's coming from one energy. I was coming from a different energy. And, we both triggered each other, because he was expecting affirmation and love. And I was expecting, acts of service. I was like, he wanted words of affirmation. I wanted acts of service, right? And this is also, if anybody's read the famous book, The 5 Love Languages, right? That's another way to put it, is that, but in the moment when you have a conflict with your partner, and again, we're all in these pressure cooker of living right now, right? Again, for those of us who are privileged to be working at home, and with our partners, with our spouses, we're on top of each other. We're not used to this schedule, and just so much this pressure cooker that so many people are in. So, these triggering conflict moments are so much more, they're apt to happen, right? They're going to happen more often than usual, because these are unusual circumstances. But when those arguments and the conflict happens, the idea is like you tend to just believe that you're a bad person, and you get really upset at the other person, and it's like you just get sucked into this emotion, right? And it's this reactionary emotion that you get into. And it's precisely in those moments where we need to learn to live and lead more proactively versus reactionary, and catch those moments and say, oh, wait, we're both being triggered right now. This is not a fundamental issue about your character flaw or mine, because we tend to go there, right? We tend to say, you're not a good person, or you go to you start attacking character, where really, and you start judging the person, and you start putting labels on the person. But really in those moments, and this is the message on how you can use marital conflict or relational conflict to become a more inclusive leader, is to actually see, oh, this is the pattern. And this is another pattern. Don't get caught up in the content. Don't get caught up in character flaws. It's like, this is another, we're both triggered right now, and this is a pattern. So what's happening is when you get into conflicts, notice the pattern. And there's probably always two or three patterns that I feel like all close relationships get into. And if you remove the content, whether or not, like, I was just taking care of the kids at the swimming pool, like, forget about the content, but track the pattern, which is he needed affirmation and he needed to be heard. And, he wanted some time he was in a good mood, and he wanted me to affirm that and give him space for that. Whereas I, was not at a place where I could give that. And I was at a place where I just needed him to not really talk and just do, and physically, give me those acts of service, right? And so usually it's that love language, that need language that two people have. And really this all ties back to inclusion, because it really is about affirming all of us, right? Is that we're all going through different experiences. We all come from different pathways, not only just from, what's happened in the last few hours and, the energy that I'm coming from and the series of events that have had led me up to this moment of the conflict, but also just our childhood trauma, right? Like, what gives you stress? What gives your partner stress, right? Like, different things trigger us. Maybe for some parents or some people, it's, it could be about finances. For somebody else, it could be about health, right? Like, we just all have different things that trigger us. But it's really, how do we, when we enter conflict and we have those reactionary, explosive moments, or just highly charged moments with our partners and our our spouses. And again, I think marital arguments and marital conflict is so not being talked about, but it's such a leadership moment. It's such a moment to get conscious and to become a more conscious leader. So that is a key message. And that leads me to the point and this overall theme and series in the whole life leadership method, which is the leadership framework that, my 20-year experience of being in the leadership world in the diversity and inclusion space, that I've designed the whole life leadership method. That leadership really starts in the family, right? Leadership starts in the family, because it is really, where and how we're shaping, our youth, and how the parents show up. And if you are, some of you don't, again, if you're tuning in right now, we're talking about how, family is the training ground to become a more inclusive leader, and that leadership starts in the family. And you can use marital conflict or relational conflict to cultivate your inclusionary leadership. And then that actually builds your character so that you can show up and actually have more consciousness and awareness and mindfulness when you are in the workplace, right? If you're managing your team, if you're trying to co-create and contribute to a more inclusive culture, it really starts, you're training that at home, and you're using the day-to-day moments where we're all living in these pressure cooker lives right now. You're using those day-to-day moments to build those leadership skills. And the reason why, again, I believe that it's so important that we start doing this in the family is because the family is where we are birthing, raising our next generation. And you have today a very broken world, right? The world is really, really broken. Just look at the racial unrest and just all the issues we have right now with inequity and the disparities we're seeing in different groups and across the world. And the world is broken because people are broken. People are broken because there's so much healing and there's so much pain that was never resolved. And you have 40-year-old adults that are that are still struggling with something that might have been said to them or how they might have been treated when they were 4 years old. Okay, so that is the message for you today as my kiddos are starting to come back in. Hi, guys. And that is really where we are shaping and seeding. And if the parents, if the husband and wife, or the wife and wife, or the husband and husband, or if that marriage, right, is good, then that's what also you're role modeling, and you're showing up. What you're modeling and what your children are seeing, what our youth is seeing, is also going to be impacted by that. And the more we can help our spouses feel seen and heard, the more conscious and healthy everybody will be, and we're going to be raising healthier families. So leadership starts in the family. Family is the training ground for your inclusionary leadership and to cultivate you as an inclusive leader, and turn those marital arguments into a self-leadership opportunity. Have a great day. Bye.
Yay! Did you get your 2 videos done?